Alright. Let's see. Who enters the chat today? Should I go with comics then? Wait, where am I? Oh, there we go. There's my Batman. Alright. Boom. Hello there. Welcome to episode 92 of Let's Talk Comics. How we living? Let's see. What's up, 1610 man? Nick Fury and his Howling Commando Security Reboot. Directed and written by Steven Spielberger. Who dat? Oh, you know, like Steven Spielberg? Honestly, a Steven Spielberg, like, Nick Fury movie would be pretty cool. Especially if you, like, set it in World War II. That could potentially be really dope. Yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny. To bring up, like, World War II, because, I just read Batman First Night by Dan Jurgens and Mike Perkins and Mike Spencer. This is taking, like, what's up, Juntai? This is taking full effect of the era in which it's taking place. It's, like, directly addressing the Great Depression, like the escalating sort of like global tensions of World War II with Hitler invading Europe, or like the surrounding areas of Europe outside of Germany. In a funny way, it is like almost directly I almost killed myself there. It's like almost directly the Shadow Year One. I think this is a Matt Wagner book, right? Yeah, Matt Wagner and Wilfredo Torres did this. Literally the same vibes, which is hilarious because there's a lot of rumors, and I mean some straight up just evidence that Batman is a ripoff of the Shadow. So it's just sort of funny reading this, going like, "Oh, this feels like the Shadow." And then I remember, oh yeah, no duh. Of course it feels like the Shadow. Only difference here is that, like, Batman doesn't kill people. Which is sort of interesting that Dan Jurgens is sort of holding to that staple of the character, despite this being the golden age iteration of Batman, who didn't mind killing people. Hey, what's up? Hey, people rolling in. What's up, Tevia? What's up, Supreme? How you doing, guys? Supreme says, hello, I've been reading the old EC comics. It's great stuff. Also reading the old EC comics makes me want to go back in time and beat up everyone involved in creating the comics code. I mean, there's a lot of Puritans who definitely had a lot of skeletons in the closet, and were definitely projecting a lot. I mean, you got to go back in time. You got to beat up Nixon, which, I mean, that's a line in and of itself. Eisenhower, kind of, although Eisenhower wasn't really all that involved in, like, you know, the Puritan culture surrounding, like, entertainment and you know, all that. That was more so like Nixon and McCarthy. But still, you know, long line. You want to beat those guys up, first you gotta go to hell. Then you gotta find the line to beat them up. But that's sort of what led to the comics code. But yeah, a lot of that EC stuff's really cool. It's sort of funny thinking about the contemporary comics landscape and how similar it is to the comics industry before the Comics Code of Authority was established. There were a lot of horror comics back then. There were a lot of like pulp comics, a lot of like definitely a lot of war comics, and we're starting to see a lot of that return now. And it's just sort of funny that people are like comics are dying when they're really sort of just going back to what they were before they were completely neutered by the Red Scare. But whatever. But yeah, it's really cool that EC's coming back. I'm excited to see what that relaunch looks like, and I'm interested to see what EC looks like in a market where they wouldn't have a monopoly on horror like they used to. So I'm fascinated to see that. But 1610 says Thor gritty reboot directed and written by Peter Jackson. Don't tell me things that I want to see. Because now I'm just gonna be sad that we don't have that. Oh man. Dude, Thor is like oh my god. Thor is such an easy character to do on screen. It's literally Superman, Power Rangers in space. Just have Thor fighting a bunch of like cosmic space demons, and like have epic shit. I don't know why it's so hard to get Thor right on film. It's really just overthinking it. Everyone's overthinking it. Tevye says, how do you feel about Warner Brothers doubling down on live service? Well, it's just one in a long line of truly baffling decision making on the part of Warner Brothers, but I'm not in those rooms. I'm not making those $1 billion calls. I'm not doing lines with the Warner Brothers guys and, you know, making decisions like we're in Succession. I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing, but from the outside looking in, it looks like they're trying to burn the company down. So, but that's just from the outside looking in. But it's just I don't know why so many people are chasing the live service format. Like, I know why. Like, it's just Fortnite. Like, Fortnite's been going for, like, what, 10, 15 years at this point? Has it been 15 years? Holy crap. When did Fortnite come online? Okay, not that long. It's like 2017. But that's still, like, what? 6 years? 7, 8, 9, 4, yeah, 7 years. Still going strong. A lot of these publishers are just chasing Fortnite when the smart decision should be following other publishers that have been putting out really high quality single player games that are like making record numbers of sales. Spider-Man PS4 was Game of the Year in 2018, and it made more money in a weekend than Spider-Man Homecoming, the film, the Walt Disney Sony Pictures collaboration, the inauguration of Spider-Man in the MCU film. This video game made more money than that film. It's a single player experience, and many people to this day still play it. Hogwarts Legacy, I don't really know that much about it, never played it, but like, it's apparently one of the biggest games ever commercially. Single player experience. So I don't know why these publishers are like still chasing the live service like wagon. It very clearly hasn't worked for anybody but Fortnite. But I guess. I mean, I guess Warframe is also part of that, but like, I don't know how Warframe's still going. That seems like a money laundering scheme at this point. I don't know anyone who still plays Warframe. I played it like the beginning and then I stopped. But I don't know. It's just weird. And it's weird that Warner Brothers is specifically making this bold decision. They're putting their foot down after the very clear-cut failure of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Bold decision, but it's their decision, and that's just what they're gonna do. So, c'est la vie. I just hope that the Wonder Woman game isn't live service, and I hope that whenever they make a Superman game, it won't be live service. But that's, yeah, I don't know, whatever. How you living, Arcus? I'm doing all right. I'm kind of mad I didn't read as many comics as I wanted to. Most of my reading's just been taken up by like reading Dune. Like I watched part 2, and it just made me want to read. It just made me want to read the book. But yeah, that's been taking up like most of my reading time, and I haven't like really read that many comics lately. Even though I like order a bunch for some ungodly reason, because I'm a junkie, and I accept that. But I did finally get my hands on this guy, which is Superman in the 70s. So I'm like really excited to jump into this. This also has like the infamous Lois Lane turns herself into a black woman issue. Let's see, where is it? Where you at in here, boy? Where that black Lois Lane at? There we go. It's subtle as a brick enema. Here it is. The issue where Lois Lane becomes a black woman. So I'm finally gonna check that out, and I'm super excited. It's funny, I think the first page I turned to when I got in the mail was this page. And it's the one where Lois is like, Superman, would you love me if I was a black woman? And Superman's answer is essentially like, I'm not a human. I don't, y'all look the same to me. Oh, man. But he does sort of like, he sort of dodges the question where she's like, would you still marry me if I was a black woman? He's like, I'm not gonna marry you, period. Because you're crazy. But, yeah, no, I'm interested to see how the topic of race is handled there. There are some redundancies in here because I have the Superman by Jack Kirby stuff over there, which this has a little bit of that, so I don't know. That's just my OCD sort of like grabbing me by the balls and yanking them over my face. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into some of this material. Pre-Crisis Superman is something that I sort of avoided for a long time just because I really resisted. I resisted the post-Comics Code of Authority sort of like the Silver Age turn that character has. But it's hard to appreciate the character fully without sort of having this material as like a frame of reference. Especially since I'm like reading a bunch of other Silver and Bronze Age DC stuff. Like I'm a big Bronze Age Batman fan. I love the Flash, and like I don't know. There's some stuff that like the Flash overlaps with Superman that is like really sort of important to both those characters. Like there's that really cool issue titled "The Flash's Wife is a Two-Timer," where you find out that Iris West is actually a nuclear Holocaust refugee from the 30th century. And that sort of like parallels Superman's struggle with being a refugee from Krypton. So, yeah, some of that stuff's really interesting. And just pre-Crisis Superman's a very different character. And when I sort of like take the post like Silver Age sorry, but like when I take like the like sort of like Silver Age stories and like the nature of the character into account and like take it on its own terms, these stories do sort of like resonate really well. It's a lot of really good science fiction in here, especially with like Superman's feelings of like loneliness and how he can like solve every problem but like chooses not to because he feels like it's not his place because he's not really among us, which is very different from post-Crisis Superman, who definitely feels like he like sees himself as like a human first, because he was like raised by humans. It's a very sort of like interesting nature nurture concept, but yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to read some of this Bronze Age 70s stuff. But John Ty says I had to let go of reading more of the Williamson run on Superman. It's just not for me. Probably read the Brainiac arc, but that's it with modern Superman right now. That's kind of a shame, man. I was actually just about to get into some of the Williamson stuff. I saw like a out of context page where he had a bunch of super scientists who were like possessing Superman to kill Lex Luthor as like the Lex Luthor Revenge Squad. That seemed genuinely sort of interesting to me, but I mean, you're out here saying that it's crap, so that's sad. I'll still give it a shot. It's only like 11 issues in, so I'll see where it goes. 1610 says Aquaman gritty reboot, directed and written by James Cameron. You'll believe a man can stop an oil spill. I mean, gritty Aquaman reboot. That's basically Aquaman Andromeda, which I thought I had up there, but I guess not. I don't know where it is, actually. Oh, that's another comic I've lost. Or just don't know where the fuck it is. Shame Spider-Man comics. At least ASM is a failure right now. It's funny you say that. Because I read Spectacular Spider-Man by Greg Weisman and Humberto Ramos, and I thought it was amazing. This is the most I've enjoyed 616 Spider-Man like in a long time. This was really good. And it's funny because it's very distinctly 616 comic book Spider-Man, but the way in which Greg Weisman is such a specific writer, this sort of just feels like a flash forward of the Spectacular Spider-Man TV series. Like, what happens with this character like 15 years after that show got canceled? Peter's voice is very much like Spectacular Spider-Man. I distinctly hear Josh Keaton's Peter Parker when reading this. Yeah, no, it's just really good. I'm also in a minority of people who like Umberto Ramos's art. I know he turns some people off, but I just think this is really cool. I I don't know. This artwork really resonates with me. It's very sort of kinetic, and it feels very perfect with Greg Weisman's style, because it reminds me a lot of Sean Cheeks' art style with the Spectacular Spider-Man show. It's got that like sort of stretch and squish philosophy that all the animators talked about with Spectacular. So I thoroughly enjoyed this first issue. It's really cool seeing Peter and Miles just sort of have a book together. In a way, this sort of feels like what I think the Spider-Man 2 video game was sort of going for. I think this does it a lot better, but I mean, from what I understand about the production of the Spider-Man 2 game, that game was like super rushed, so it's not really a fair comparison. But I thoroughly enjoyed this comic. I thought it was really good. If you can, definitely give it a read. And this is gonna sound awful, but this is also the most I've enjoyed a Miles comic, at least as far as he's been in the 616 universe. It's cool seeing I don't know, but Miles just has a voice to me now. Whereas he usually doesn't in a lot of even the Ultimate books, he doesn't really have a voice that much. I'm really just looking back, I was really just sort of sticking with that book because it was the continuation of Peter's story with Peter's supporting cast. That's who I was really invested in. But yeah, this is the most I've really sort of enjoyed Miles in the comics. So definitely give it a shot. It's pulling from some of that Ditko era material with some of the side characters. You have Professor Warren in here. They bring him back. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. If you like Spider-Man, read this. If you want to enjoy 616 Spider-Man, read this. It'll definitely. Also, if you enjoyed Spectacular Spider-Man, read this, because this just feels like a continuation of Spectacular Spider-Man to me. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. So, as far as Spider-Man in comics right now, we got Ultimate Spider-Man and we got this. So, have at it. John Dye says, well, besides Batman the First Night, what else have you read? Well, I read that. I read this. I'm really excited to check out Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko. This is the book I've been looking forward to for a long time. Everyone on Reddit and Twitter, or I guess X now, which it's so stupid to call it X, but everyone's sort of just been describing this book as it's just a horror comic, which I'm fine with. It's funny. I was having a conversation earlier with Troy from Previous World, and I was talking about how I feel like the Marvel universe, or much rather, Marvel stories feel their most authentic when they are approached through the lens of horror, or at the very least when the creators sort of lean into the aesthetics of horror. That's when I feel like Marvel, or that's why I feel like these stories feel the most Marvel. Primarily because Marvel Comics starts off as a horror imprint. in the same way that like DC starts off very pulpy. That's why I always sort of like sing the praises of like Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics. That's why I'm singing the praises of this really hard, because they feel very pulpy, and I feel like when you're approaching DC characters, the pulpier the better. That's when you sort of start tapping into like the core DNA of that universe. And the same goes for Marvel with horror. That's why books like Spine-Tingling Spider-Man struck a chord with me so hard. That's why I really sort of am excited to jump into this. I think Marvel and horror just sort of go together like peanut butter and jelly, because that's Marvel's DNA. Just like pulp is DC's DNA, horror is Marvel's DNA. So I'm really excited to jump into this. I really, really want to see what Peach Momoko can do with the X-Men universe. There is some stuff here and there that feels a little weird. Like, Storm is apparently like a Japanese girl, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I don't know, this is still sort of supposed to be like the 616 universe, but like once removed. So stuff like that feels a little weird. Also, I think Storm's in the I think she's already in Ultimate Black Panther. So I don't know, maybe the character that I saw in the previews wasn't Storm. So I don't know. But anyways, just all of this shit, like all well, first of all, just Peach Momoko's artwork is like immaculate. She's just one of the best artists working in the comic industry currently. But just like weird stuff like this, it's like, this is perfect. This is wonderful. This is everything Marvel can be. Like superheroes plus horror. I think that's where Marvel really shines. But yeah, I'm still looking for the Storm thing. But I don't know. Maybe that was just like a something out of context that wasn't canon, and I'm just being stupid. But yeah, it's cool seeing a book also just dedicated to Armor, because Armor's a really sort of underrated character that could be like a big deal, but I feel like after like the Joss Whedon run, no one really knew what to do with her, and she sort of just been in the background shuffle of everything the X-Men has been trying to do, and like been sort of splashing at up until Hickman. And even when Hickman took over, there wasn't really like a big emphasis on characters like Armor. I feel alright. I have a whole thing with a lot of like the newer X-Men characters. Specifically a lot of the characters that were introduced over the past like 20 years. I think they need a greater spotlight. The problem is the X-Men as a franchise is just, it's so big. Senpai. But it's a franchise in and of itself. It's sort of like, here's the Marvel Universe, and here's the X-Men. Like, the X-Men is sort of like its own thing, doing its own thing over there. And it's sort of hard to let some of those other characters breathe. Especially when you're always sort of also trying to kowtow to, like, the status quo, and you're always bringing back older characters. It's sort of difficult to put a spotlight on newer characters when we're still cycling through the same 5 stories that we can tell with Jean Grey, Kitty Pryde, Scott Summers, and Wolverine. So I don't know. But it's cool that someone's doing something with armor. And I just hope that this book. Well, first of all, I hope it's good. I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it's good. A lot of the other like things that Peach Momoko's done have been received really well, so I don't see why this shouldn't be like of the same high caliber. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to read that. That's been like on my read list for a while. 1610s is a Flash gritty reboot, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Reverse Flash, time travel is Barry's pitch. I mean, that's more or less what the Flash movie that we got was. You know what would be really cool? I really want to see a Flash movie that's just a straight up, like, crime drama. I think it'd be cool to see a Flash movie where, if we're gonna center the whole thing around Barry Allen, it'd be kind of cool if we had a Flash movie where Barry is solving crimes and he has to fight the rogues. I think that'd be cool. That's just my radical hot take. I think it'd be cool to have a Flash movie where the Flash fights Flash villains. Or it'd also be pretty cool to have a Flash movie where, like, you have Barry Allen year one, sort of being trained by Wally West from the future, and there's like a whole like time travel shenanigans thing. That'd be pretty cool. That'd also make a really good video game. It'd be cool to get a Flash video game. It'd be nice to get a Flash video game, preferably not live service, but you know, whatever. DC, Warner Brothers games, please. Everyone always talks about how like impossible it would be to make a Flash game, but like, how many Sonic games do we have? Infamous First Light exists. Fucking Saints Row the 4th. One of the powers is super speed. Like, I don't know. It's impossible to make a Flash game. No, it's not. You're like purposely being obtuse and lacking imagination because you just want to say that it can't be done. It's like the same thing with like Superman. I never want to hear anyone say that a Superman game is impossible after playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. You're just wrong. But that's a whole thing in and of itself. Supreme says, if Seduction of the Innocent was never published and the comic code never existed, do you feel the superhero genre would still be popular? That's hard to say. Because there's a lot that sort of goes into that, because superheroes, the reason why superheroes started to fall out of favor with the public is because superheroes were a response to the Great Depression. And, like, sort of immediately afterwards, World War II. But after World War II, we have this sort of, like, new age of economic prosperity. One which America has not known before or since, really. So within that comfort, the catharsis of superheroes sort of lost its luster. So they sort of just got turned into, like, Family Guy bits. Like they just became like romance comics and like sort of silly, like I don't know, just became Family Guy. That's just what superhero comics were in the 50s and 60s. They're just Family Guy. They're just Family Guy episodes. So trying to think like if like that transition was already being established too. Like, you can't necessarily blame the comics code of authority completely on superheroes sort of being neutered, because a lot of it just sort of came from the culture in America shifting. So I think regardless of the comics code's existence, you still would have seen superhero comics sort of shifting into being like silly fuddy-duddy stories, just to sort of maintain any sense of relevancy within the culture, because they were losing really badly to comics like Archie and like Patsy Walker and a lot of the Marvel Romance comics of the time. So yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to say. I think you can make a case that superheroes would have lost their popularity even like faster if they sort of like maintained the course of being gritty pulp heroes. But I don't know. That's one of those sort of weird, interesting, alternate history sort of questions where I wish I had like Rick's portal gun so I could just go to the universe where that happened. But I don't know. Making a good single player game like Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man 2, those are really good. Yeah, those games were really good. John Ty says those news show documentary stories would make a great template for Superman stories. I agree. I am baffled that we live in the climate we live in currently, at least here in the West. Baffled that we live in the climate that we live in currently and no one's taking advantage of Clark Kent, the journalist. Like, the buffet of ideas are right there. All you have to do is eat. Why do we insist on doing the same sort of like 5 things with the character? And I don't know. But I really think we're at an age where maybe not necessarily take Superman back to being the gritty, pulpy, quasi-murderous champion of the oppressed as he was in 1938, but you could definitely have a stronger, like the Daily Planet and like a lot of those characters, and like Superman's sort of like journalism side could take more of a presence in these stories. Like, you could do a lot with a I don't know. I don't know what a DC is doing that. I don't get it. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, they did during the Bush administration years. Everyone seemed like totally cool with Clark Kent investigating like corporate and government espionage and investigating like the Ra's al Ghul connection to the Luthor administration. We were doing a lot of that back then. Why aren't we doing that now? I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know why the ideas are literally writing themselves, but it's, again, I don't know, I'm just over here. It's not my choice. Destiny's still going. Is it? That's insane. The game's old as hell. Lexington says Martian Manhunter gritty reboot directed by Ridley Scott. Actually sounds pretty cool. Quote, in LA, nobody can hear you scream unless you're an edgy alien homicide detective from a dead race and family. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. You know who would be a really good director for Martian Manhunter film? The guy who directed Chappie and District 9. I think his name is like Neil Blomkamp. Yeah, Neil Blomkamp would make a really good Martian Manhunter film. Would he ever do it? Probably not. But I still think Neil Blomkamp would be like the perfect guy for a Martian Manhunter film or a miniseries. Supreme says on nostalgia, it's weird for there to be so much nostalgia for the Silver Age, but not the Golden Age. You never hear Jay Garrick and Alan Scott fans complaining about the heroes being replaced. That's because I think a lot of Alan Scott and Jay Garrick fans know them as the wise sage mentors to the Silver Age heroes, as opposed to being like the guy. That's sort of what I think. But also just in general, the Golden Age is sort of weird in that it's very raw, and the concept of superheroes as they are popularized does not begin until you get to the Silver Age. So that's why I think there's like a nostalgia for the Silver Age that there isn't necessarily for the Golden Age. Except for weirdos like me who love the Golden Age, but you know, that's whatever. Question, how would you fix Warner Brothers games and tell them not to do this crap and give us an actual Superman game? Well, I mean, I can't fix Warner Brothers. That's a gambit that I don't want that job. That's just too big of a job. I don't want that job. But second of all, I don't know. Just I feel like Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Just I know that it's been disproven by this point, but come on, they already made a massive open world metropolis with like all the Brainiac stuff looming in the background. How hard is it really to just recycle those assets to just make a Superman game? Like, how hard is it really? Like, come on, just make the fucking Superman game. Just, come on, man. What are we doing? What are you doing at this point? Just make it. Marcus says, publishers chasing Fortnite fame because potentially it will make them a lot of money. Exactly. It's the idea of it making money, rather than, I don't know, just making something good. The live service model is just such a fucking mistake. But Tyler Perry's Black Lois Lane gritty reboot quote, all the brothers want some dark coffee, but Superman's packing like a man of steel. Hey, you know what? I'm just gonna like write that on the cover because that's amazing. Oh man, Tyler Perry would also get that shut down, just like he did that Boondocks episode. Man, I'm just trying to get some ass. Oh damn. Modern Ages is better than the golden, silver, bronze ages. For like comics in general, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in all those ages, but if you like a lot of the modern stuff more, that's more power to you. I think the art's definitely better. I think comic book art now is like significantly better than it's ever been. I'll definitely say that. Any opinion on Ultimate X-Men? I haven't read it yet, but I'm probably gonna read it after the stream. Spider-Man's fantastic. Jon Favreau's Iron Man gritty reboot. His original Iron Man 2 cut and Iron Man 3 without the MCU shared universe ventures. Yeah, I can see that. Apparently, in Jon Favreau's Iron Man 3, he was going to bring in like all those other classic villains like the Blizzard and the Twister or whatever the fuck. I think it's the Twister. Is it the Twister? No, but the guy who spins around a lot. He has like a very distinct character design. He was gonna bring in like a lot of those classic Iron Man villains. That would have been really cool. And they were all gonna be working under the Mandarin. But we just didn't get that. I also still feel like it was a missed opportunity. Even if you aren't going to introduce these villains, you have Whiplash making all these drones with Iron Man technology. How hard would it have been to just say that this drone unit over here is the Crimson Dynamo unit, this drone unit over here is the Blizzard unit, this drone unit over here is I don't know, shit, I ran out of Iron Man villains, but just sort of do that. Iron Man has a lot of like crappy D-list characters that no one was gonna do anything with, like here's the Ghost unit. They can shift in and out of reality or like in and out of matter. I don't know, just that would have been cool, but they didn't do that, so whatever. Stream says also one EC Comics. There's a lot of really underrated artists like Harvey Kurtzman and Wally Wood. Yes, absolutely. I know Dark Horse reprinted a lot of those material, a lot of that material over the past like 10-15 years. So it's really cool that it's like, didn't go away. I wonder if EC is now going to be publishing that material as opposed to Dark Horse. I'm interested to know what the rights situation is going to be regarding all that. Spider-Man 2 was really good in my opinion. I think the gameplay is really good. The story I think is just sort of crap. Green Lantern gritty reboot. J.J. Abrams. No, we're good. No, we don't need that in life. I am excited for the Green Lantern True Detective show that James Gunn is apparently working on. I'm excited for that. Toby says, question, do you believe with Ultimate Spider-Man being a success and Spectacular Spider-Man being a success, it will be canceled? No, it won't be, Toby. It's not going to happen. No matter how much you want it to happen, it's not going to happen. Also, we still haven't seen the sales numbers for Spectacular Spider-Man. Do you like the new Punisher book with Joe Garrison? I haven't read that since the second issue. But I like the first two issues. Yeah. it still feels like a like we're correcting a problem that wasn't really a problem in the first place, sort of thing. Um, like we have to fix the Punisher because he's problematic, even though he's not really problematic. Um, but whatever. I don't know. The first two issues are really good. I'll eventually get around to reading issues 3 and 4, but yeah, I think it's a good start so far. Um, for my 616 Spider-Man fix at the moment are Spider-Boy and the new Superior Spider-Man run. Oh, that's pretty cool. Speaking of Marvel Comics now, how do you feel about Superior Spider-Man taking over Spider-Boy's body? I didn't know that was happening because I'm not reading either of those books. Yeah, I know Storm's in the Ultimate Black Panther book. I just distinctly remember seeing a girl uh, with lightning bolt earrings in like some of the previews for Ultimate X-Men, and I was like, oh, it's weird that you have two Storms. Um, oh, the character's name Maystorm. Okay, cool. Well, that's a different person. Cool. Rue Omega says, on late 90s and early 2000s, do you feel it's a bit weird that a lot of writers from that era came from crime book backgrounds like Bendis, Brubaker, Rucka? I always wondered why. Um, Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. Um. Well. Um. I don't. I think it's because a lot of those '90s writers, were like doing a lot of big. They were really big in the indie scene at the time, so I think it's just sort of a coincidence that crime was super big in the '90s, in comics. So yeah, I think it's just like a crazy coincidence there. Um, but it worked out perfectly because those guys did a lot of really good work in the early 2000s with like Daredevil and Captain America, and people rave about Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman. So, um, and there's stuff like Gotham Central, which is also really good. Um, but 1610 Man says Christopher Nolan's Daily Bugle gritty reboot prequel to the Sony Spider-Man universe crime drama set in the Great Depression. We're expanding the Spider-Man lore. That sounds awful, but I think Christopher Nolan could pull it off because he's Christopher Nolan. Um, the Zdarsky run of Batman's all over the place. Yeah, it's so sad because that book started so well in my opinion, and then just sort of everything after Bruce Wayne came back from the multiverse, it sort of feels like it just fell apart. Um, Fox Studios quote, "The X-Men franchise is bigger than Marvel itself." I mean, it literally is though. um, Stream says, in your Bat Family video, you complain about it being too big. I feel another problem is that all of them are perpetually stuck the same age. Well, that was my big point with that video. I feel like none of these characters are like properly progressing, and in a lot of cases, we're retrograding them to iconic status quos because you got to appeal to the people who love the 90s and the 2000s. Even though I distinctly think it's a mistake to have Dick Grayson go back to being Nightwing after he's already been Batman. I think that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake to have Tim Drake go back to being Robin after he graduated from that status quo and became Red Robin. I think it's a mistake to retrograde Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown back to being Batgirl when they've both graduated from being Batgirl. Well, not really Stephanie Brown. Stephanie Brown became Batgirl. But Cassandra Cain graduated from that status quo. She's not... these characters... The reason why we read comics is to watch characters grow. Watching them sort of just retrograde over time sort of defeats the purpose of being invested in them in the first place, I feel. So, I don't know. But that's a big reason why I think the Bat family is sort of stagnant right now. You're introducing new characters that are also sort of filling the roles of old characters that were sort of just keeping it the same status quos that they've been at for the past 30 years. And then you just run into redundancies. Red Hood and Huntress are effectively the same character. The gritty, I kill people, or at least I used to kill people, but then the Batman showed me another way, but he's the father figure that I have to sort of fight against because I have daddy issues. Congratulations, we just have Huntress 2.0 in the Red Hood. Great, good job. Or introducing Duke Thomas as hey guys, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm the voice of the new generation. That was Tim Drake. This is Tim Drake. Fucking 35 years ago. What are you doing? What is this? Now Duke Thomas has nothing to do. Especially that Damian is alive and is Robin again, which that just shouldn't have happened. They should have left Damian dead. But again, just positive forward momentum just keeps getting halted by a desire, or really a need to adhere to what's popular in the public eye. I don't know. That's my big problem with the Bat family. You see this with other characters too, specifically the Flash. I love Wally West. He's my favorite. Well, he's one of my favorite DC characters of all time. He's my favorite Flash, definitely. But why is Wally still the Flash? His story's over. Barry's story lasted from 1959 through 1986, and then it was over. Wally's story went from 1987, and it ended in 2007 with Infinite Crisis. What more do you do with Wally West as the Flash? I don't know. In an ideal world, the fourth Flash should have been Jesse Quick. I don't like to think this, but given how it was 2007 and things were just different back then, I could totally see the mindset at DC Comics being, you can't have a woman be the Flash. I could totally see that being the mindset. As stupid as it is. but I still feel like it would have been a smarter choice to have Jesse Quick become the fourth Flash, especially since it was like already sort of teased throughout the 90s under Mark Waid. But someone decided to put Bart Allen in that Flash costume, and that book has been a hot mess ever since. So I don't know, whatever. I still think Jesse should be the Flash too. I still think that should just be the status quo, and then we go from there. But I don't know, whatever. Can we get a Wally West Flash movie? You know what? Since Dick Grayson's gonna be like Nightwing in the new DC universe, just start with Wally West as the Flash. Just say that Barry Allen was the Flash at one point, and then he died, and then Wally took over. That's all you got to do. If we're starting with an established DC universe, just start with Wally. Just do that. That'd be cool. 16 Tints is David Goyer's 2000s Flash movie trilogy where with Ryan Reynolds as Wally West in a movie tie-in game. That would have been fun. I mean, the movie tie-in games probably would have been crap, but like, still would have been fun. Honestly, that Flash script was actually not that terrible. If anything, it kind of gets the Flash down pretty perfectly, I think. Where like Barry Allen dies. I mean, it kind of sucks that Barry Allen dies against the Turtle of all villains, but you know, still, Barry Allen dies. Wally West takes over for the Flash and is just sort of like he's just Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. He's like, I'm signing movie deals. I'm signing titties as autographs. I'm having fun. That's a really cool idea, and like watching him sort of get over that and learn what it really means to be a hero. Also, all of that is sort of directly out of the comics. That is more or less the Mike Barr era of the Flash, from what I've read. So yeah, no, that's kind of perfect, but we just didn't get it. It just didn't happen. Also, Ryan Reynolds as Wally West is like kind of perfect casting, but again, we don't live in an ideal world. It says Superman with John Kent. No, I'm good. I can live without that. I know you love John Kent. He's like your favorite character, but I don't want it. I don't want John Kent in Superman things. Honestly, ever since that character got aged up, just any goodwill I had towards that character is just out the window. You know what's funny? I don't even like John Kent just like on principle. I feel like everything with involving Superman with DC Rebirth, in retrospect, is just like super lazy, and it was just like a ploy to get like post-crisis fans back on board. But it just wasn't really handled like the storytelling is like fun, like they're fun Superman stories, but they're just not like when you like stop and think about the continuity of it all, it doesn't make sense, and it's actually sort of like breaks everything, and also sort of like fundamentally breaks characters like Connor Kent, like John Kent fundamentally breaks Connor. Like Connor Kent is ruined as a character because of John Kent. So like I don't know. But hey, what's up, Spader? Silver Age comics were basically kids books. I mean, yeah. Um, Granted, kids were also just built differently back then because Golden Age superhero comics were also for kids, and like shit like the Shadow was also for kids technically. So kids are just built different back in the day. Um, they're just they went hard for those child labor laws. Um, Spader says, I know this sounds basic, but comics have such an interesting and in-depth history that isn't nearly as talked about as it should be. It absolutely is. If you ever get a chance, there's a book that I always sort of like to pimp out to people. Where is it? No, why not have it? I don't know where it is. That's frustrating. But it's a book called, is it on the bookshelf? No, I don't see it. But it's a book called Comic Book Nation. It's called like a history of American youth culture. Let me see. The transformation of youth culture in America. It's by Bradford W. Wright. If you ever get a chance, definitely read that book. It's if you're interested in the history of comic books in America, it's a really insightful read. I highly recommend it. And welcome to the stream. You know, glad to see you. David Yates X-Men. Oh my God! If Harry Potter franchise with mutants instead of wizards. Honestly, I feel like that's what a lot of X-Men fans want. It's not necessarily what I want, but that's definitely what I think a lot of X-Men fans want. Question: how do you feel about Rooster Teeth shutting down? No thoughts. I don't know. That's nah. What are your thoughts on the current Superman run? I haven't read it yet. I still want to. I know the first trade paperback came out a while ago. So I'm definitely interested in reading it. I've been told from people that it's not great, but I don't know. I still want to check it out. The problem is a lot of the stuff that I've seen out of context looks really fun. I really like the idea that, at least from my understanding, there's like a gang of super scientists and mad geniuses who resent Lex Luthor for using them up and like sort of spitting them out when they were no longer relevant to his crusade against Superman. I think it's really cool, this idea that there is a Metropolis under Metropolis, because Metropolis keeps getting destroyed every 5 minutes because it's like the ultimate 9/11 child. So there are like several versions of Metropolis that are just dead and buried underneath the Metropolis that we see today. I think that's a really interesting idea. I think the whole like Supercorp thing is potentially like really fun. I'm again just everything that I've sort of like seen outside of the first like 3 issues that I read, which I also really enjoyed, looks really cool. So I'm definitely excited to read the book for myself, despite some of the negative reactions that I've read to it. Tevi says, how do you feel about Dune 2 being a complete success at the box office and destroying Disney Star Wars? I mean, that's cool. I don't have any thoughts on it like destroying Star Wars, but you know, it is cool seeing Dune be as big as it is. especially now that like I'm like properly getting into Dune myself. I think that world's very fascinating. I think it could potentially be the next Lord of the Rings if Denis Villeneuve. I always mispronounce his name. Everyone in the chat makes fun of me for mispronouncing his name, but I think I really do think that Dune could be the next Lord of the Rings, especially if they like adapt some of the weird shit like Dune Messiah and some of the stuff where like Shani and Paul's son like gives himself worm DNA and he becomes like this. He becomes like Jabba the Hutt plus Hitler. I think that's potentially like really fun and interesting, or maybe not fun, but like it's definitely interesting. It's sort of weird thinking about Dune, especially under like Denis Villeneuve. Now that I'm reading the book for myself, the movies have like a very self-serious, epic aesthetic and tone that, at least from how I've read it so far, the book doesn't. So I don't know. It's very interesting. There's also some stuff that is like omitted in the films. I'm sure for just like time's sake and when you're working within a different medium like film, which is visual, you don't have time to sort of like get into the nitty gritty details of like world building, like talking about the Butlerian Jihad and like explaining why certain characters are the way they are. It's also sort of weird, like some of the changes that they make. Like Jason Momoa's character Duncan in the Dune movies, I sort of feel like his personality is switched with Josh Brolin's character Gurney. Like they sort of feel like switched. It's sort of weird. But there's also like things that are like set up as reveals in the Dune movies, or at least the first movie, that just aren't reveals in the book. Like Dr. Yue being a traitor is sort of, that's like a big like oh, whereas in the book they, as soon as that character is introduced, they say no, this guy's a traitor. He is going to betray House Atreides. So I don't know. I think it's just sort of interesting seeing the differences between the book and the movie. But I'm really excited that we have another major epic franchise that isn't like Marvel or Star Wars. I think it's pretty cool that Dune is sort of filling that Lord of the Rings void. And I'm interested to see if we like get more in that universe under Denis Villeneuve, in the same way that like Peter Jackson made like 6 movies with like the Lord of the Rings trilogy and then the Hobbit trilogy, which again you can definitely do with Dune. You can definitely do that with Dune, especially at the rate that he's going, where like you could adapt one book into like 2 films. You can do that with the first 3 Dune books, from my understanding at least. I'm still going through them, but from the way I understand it, you could definitely do that. But I don't know. It's really cool that Dune is taking off the way it has. But 1610 Man says James Wan's Spectre is a gritty reboot. Low budget horror movies with the Spectre instead of Annabelle, and the sex evil doll. Honestly, you just need to work for James Gunn and tell James Gunn to make this, because that also sounds really cool. Tevye says, question, didn't Bendis try to do that with Clark Kent investigation of the Invisible Mafia. Maybe, but I don't know. I didn't read the Bendis stuff, so I don't know. By the way, Jay Garrick has a current book. I did see that. I also saw that he had a daughter, and just conceptually, I don't like that, so I just didn't read it. Neil Blomkamp would make a great Cyborg, Deathlock or Vision movie. The plot is just AI bad. I mean, yeah, you would. Honestly, Neil Blomkamp on making a film about Deathlock would be potentially really cool. Under the MCU banner, I'm not sure like how cool it could be. Only just because I feel like everything under the MCU post Phase 1 is just sort of like safe. But I don't know, I think you could definitely do a lot of really cool stuff like with Deathlock, and like the military industrial complex and using like dead soldiers. I think that's a potentially really cool idea. But let's see. Scream says another what if. What if Batman comics never adopted the no killing rule? Would he still be popular? Because those early Golden Age comics, Bruce and Dick had no problem using lethal force. Well, I can't speak for Bruce, but I know I don't think Dick Grayson killed people in those early stories. Dick definitely had a mean streak, but like, I feel like Batman stopped killing after Robin showed up. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't read a lot of those Golden Age stories in forever, but I distinctly remember Bruce putting the gun away, and he adopted this whole like we don't kill our enemies sort of mentality when Robin showed up. So I don't know. But regarding whether or not how popular Batman would be, if he like maintained that like sort of pulp action hero mentality, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, Batman was never that popular. Like the reality is, Batman does not find his legs really until, well, this is a two-pronged question. Batman does not really find his legs as a character until like the 70s. Because up until then, dudes are just throwing darts in the dark, hoping that they hit something. It's not until you get to like the Carmen Infantino era and like the Dennis O'Neil era, and like really when Bruce Wayne moves out of the cave and Robin goes off to college, and Bruce and Alfred like move into like the Wayne Foundation penthouse, that's when Batman becomes the iconic Batman that everyone knows and loves. Ironically, given how that's like a status quo that not a lot of people are familiar with. But like the tone and like the types of stories that are being told in that era, the focus on like the Wayne Foundation and Batman as an institution within Gotham, as well as Bruce Wayne as an institution within Gotham, and how Batman and Bruce Wayne are both trying to control crime. Like a lot of that stuff starts in like the early 70s. Late 60s and early 70s. But even then, like, Batman doesn't become like really popular until the 80s with like Dark Knight Returns and Year One, and then a lot of stuff that like came out afterwards with like Chuck Dixon in the 90s and Alan Grant. Like Batman as a character does not really pop off until like 1986. So it's hard to really say that, like, you know, how popular Batman would be if he never had like a no killing rule, because Batman was never really all that popular. But make a really good Superman game, World Saga. Absolutely, it really would. Make it like a make it like a Arkham Asylum, where Batman is stuck on the asylum, and then you just sort of have to fight your way through everything. Just do that with the World Saga. Absolutely, that'd be amazing. That'd be the perfect Superman game. I'd play the fuck out of that. Wouldn't it be sad if the only way we got journalist Superman stories are only in Black Label? Wouldn't it be sad if we... no, actually, wouldn't it be a cool thing if we got Black Label Superman stories? Because we only got one. We got that Superman and Lobo book. That's about it. I mean, technically American Alien is like one of the proto Black Label books, just to like see if there would be interest in like a mature reader's DC line, but I don't really count that, so I don't know. And there's also like Superman Year One, I guess, but yeah, there's not a lot of Black Label Superman stuff. Like I think there's like the Last Days of Lex Luthor, but I mean, that first issue came out like a million years ago, and I don't know when issue 2's coming out, so I don't know. It'd be cool to get some more Black Label Superman stuff, though. That'd be cool. The top. I thought the top was a Marvel, was a DC. He's the Flash. The top was a Flash villain, right? Yeah. I don't see anything gonna look him up. What about Madame Mask as the main villain for an Iron Man movie? That'd be really cool. We're not gonna see that now, but that would be really cool. Potentially we might see Madame Mask in the Iron Man game. That'd be dope. I'd like to see that. She's a very underrated character. Michael Bay's Justice League, just a less pretentious Zack Snyder. I mean, literally, Michael Bay's Justice League would just be a hornier version of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Just yeah, more horny and more crass. John Favreau's original Iron Man 2 was gonna have Hawkeye and the Circus, paid by Justin Hammer. That's interesting. I kind of wish we got that, but whatever. How do you feel about Krakoa era coming to an end? I mean, it was always going to come to an end. The problem is just Marvel. They booted Hickman like not even halfway through. So, at least for me, the status quo never really got to like pique my interest, really. So I don't know. I guess we're just gonna return to the mansion, which I have a strong suspicion that Hickman was gonna do anyways, but it probably would have been way more cool and interesting the way Hickman would have done it. But whatever. Ron Howard's The Question. The internet itself is a conspiracy, bruh. I like it when superhero stories are characterized as being a champion of the oppressed, and all those grifters would call it woke. Fucking internet grifters are... Dude, there's a lot of shit just like... I don't know. It's just so parodic. I could totally see someone like looking at I bet you when that X-Men show comes out, X-Men like 97, there's gonna be like a mutant protest or something, and everyone's gonna be like, they made the X-Men woke, and it's like, it's literally just the same shit that we saw like 30 years ago when that show was out. Like, what are you talking about? Just rewatching the first X-Men movie was like, oh wow, this is, if this came out now, everyone would be like, get woke, go broke, bringing real world politics into my comics. And it's like, oh wow, it's just, these people are so stupid. How do you feel about Marvel's Gang War? I'm not reading it. Greg Rucka stories. News people good, rich people bad. I mean, yeah, that's literally all Greg Rucka stories. I really would have liked to see where that Lois Lane book would have gone if it wasn't under all the weird stuff Bendis was doing with that book at the time. But, yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about the Sinister Sons? I'm not reading it. Don't care. I'm not. 1610 says, comic book fans, can we have an ideal world imprint for alternative versions of Marvel and DC main canon? Keep dreaming, fanboys. Yeah. Batgirl and Robin. I wonder why for a long time you're more harsh on Stephanie Brown being Batgirl than Damian being Robin. I just love Cassandra. And I really did not appreciate Cassandra being I didn't appreciate how like she made like a villain turn, and then her role as Batgirl was sort of just like usurped by Stephanie. That's like how I saw it at the time, and I just didn't appreciate it. And I didn't really have like a. It's sort of weird with Tim Drake, because I liked Tim Drake, but I didn't love Tim Drake. I also just wasn't like actively reading the Grant Morrison Batman title at the time. The Batman stuff that I was reading was Detective Comics by Paul Dini. And Tim Drake was still Robin and a lot of that stuff. And like I was reading like some of the other like Batman miniseries and like out of continuity stories. I don't read Grant Morrison's Batman until like 3 years ago when I get like the Omnibuy. Like it I don't read that book until like recently. So I mean I didn't, I can say I didn't like Damian when he first showed up. I thought it was like obnoxious and a brat, but it just didn't. I didn't read that Robin series, and I still haven't read that Robin series, the Tim Drake one. I can imagine if I read it in the same way that I read the Cassandra Cain Batgirl book and was invested in that material, I'd harbor a lot more hate for Damian at the time, but I just didn't. So that's why I cared more about Cassandra getting replaced than Tim getting replaced. I was just more invested in Cassandra as a character. The yellow fever thing might have a thing to do with it. No, I'm kidding. But no, yeah, it was just because I read her book more. But in an ideal world, we would have gotten that James Cameron Spider-Man movie. Yes. you're fucking telling me, man. We would have had an actual good Spider-Man movie before Spider-Verse. I say retcon John Kent for being aged up. I mean, I say retcon John Kent's existence. Just get that character out of here. There was Connor Kent in the New 52. No, Connor existed. He had that, like, weird Tron suit. Yeah. 1610 Man says, Jason Mindwipe Assault Birth Child Support Arc. What? Oh, all that shit with Superman Returns, yeah. Is better than, John Post-Crisis New Earth. Please, yeah, I'm in that same boat. I mean, I'm not gonna go that far. I still think the whole Jason thing is weird. I don't like that at all. I don't like Superman being a deadbeat dad. That's just weird. I still don't like that. But you know, whatever. Yeah, you know what? I also agree. I think I think Connor being the new Superman would be pretty cool. Just like I think in an ideal world, Tim Drake is the new Batman, but rather Dick Grayson's the new Batman with Damian as Robin, with Connor as Superman. That'd be a really cool status quo, but you have to have the characters in the DC universe actually like progress and grow to do that. Which I just don't foresee that happening anymore. But John Ty says, what comics, be it runs or limited series, that you can always reread? For me, it's Tom King's Mr. Miracle maxi series. That's a really good one. Justice by Jim Krueger and Alex Ross is I mean, these are fighting words, but for me, that is the quintessential Justice League story. Like, if you read nothing else, read Justice. It's perfect. It is everything the DC universe can be. You can read that. I honestly think you can read Frank Miller's Daredevil. You can read that over and over again. Earth X you can read over and over again. That's a really good one. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King and Bilquis Evely. You can read that. Let's see what else you got down there. I mean, outside of I guess outside of like Marvel and DC, there's also Kick-Ass. I think Kick-Ass reads very well. That whole series is really good. Akira's a great read. I'm not sure if you can read it I would like to read Kick-Ass over and over again because I've read it twice now, and you just see things that you sort of missed, or at the very least I saw things that I missed on a first read. So Akira's a really good one. Dangerous Habits by Garth Ennis, and I can't remember the artist for that one, but that's a really classic Hellblazer story. That's a really good one. I think you can read the first 25 issues of the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle series over and over again. That's a really good read. Spider-Man by Mark Miller, the Marvel Knights run by I think Terry and Rachel Dodson did the art for that one as well. That's a great one to read and reread over and over again. That's a really good like blockbuster comic. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there. Nameless by Grant Morrison and Chris Burnham is great too. Hellboy, definitely. That's a book that you can just read forever. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can just like read and reread over and over again. Multiversity is another one. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. When are we getting the Ultimates 2 review? Relatively soon. Um, I'm like still refinalizing the script for it. It just something just feels amiss with it. I don't know, just something feels off. Um, but I mean, shout out to Paul Neary. Rest in peace. I think he did the coloring for Ultimates too. So rest in peace, Paul Neary. I'll definitely have to add you know, shout out to him in that video. But yeah, just something about the script just isn't clicking with me. I don't know what it is, but I've been reading it and rereading it and like you know, reading it out loud. Just something just is off with it. I don't really want to record it until I feel like it's like sort of perfect. But you know, that's when it's gonna come out, when I feel comfortable with it. Supreme Omega says, to be fair with Steph, people were going to be mad at any white girl replacing Cass, because originally Misfit was going to be Cass's replacement. Misfit. I don't know this character. Um, she looks like a Gail. Yeah, she's a Gail Simone character from Birds of Prey, which I didn't read that material, so I can't speak to it. But I don't know. Like it, I'm okay with characters being replaced. It's just the way in which you replace them. I just did not like the way in which. I don't like the way Cassandra was replaced. I didn't like that. Um, if modern day Spider-Man actually progressed, public identity, pardon, ex-fugitive, ex-teacher, scientist, divorced and dead, family, friends, and kids. Um, yeah. Um, I don't know. Spider-Man's had a weird trajectory since the Clone Saga. Um, I mean, even before the Clone Saga, with like his robot parents and all that weird shit. Um, yeah, I don't know. Apparently, the director's gonna do 3 Dune movies. That's pretty cool. So, like, I guess maybe we'll get like the first half of Dune Messiah in the next film, or maybe like a truncated version of Dune Messiah. Um, Supreme says also taking more of a break of cape shit. Another reason is fandom. This may sound harsh, but I feel all superhero fans will hate change, and the internet and social media made it worse. I mean, yeah, there's that. That's definitely why I walked away from Star Wars. Um, but you know, hmm. uh, here's the thing on the Jeremy Adams Flash book. It's really good. uh, yeah, I just don't like the idea of Jay having kids. I don't like the idea of Jay and Joan having kids. Like that's for me, that was like the big reason why they were uh so like tight with Wally West and Linda Park. Like they were the kids that they never got to have. Um, I feel like giving giving Jay and Joan a kid sort of undercuts that a little bit. Um, Ironically, the '60s Batman show is the reason why it became really big. Yeah, and apparently, according to all the writers and editors at DC, that was They're like, oh wow, Batman's just a joke now. Oh man. I mean, I really like the '60s Batman show, but I can imagine at the time, if you were really into Batman, you'd feel the same way about that show that like a lot of people feel about like the Taika Waititi Thor or something like that. But 1610 says a Frank Miller quote, "With Mystical Green Beanie, I gave Batman his balls back for the edgy modern man." Yeah. I don't think Frank Miller would say that. No, I'm scrolling. Why do I get the feeling the reason why older creators like the Dio and Alex Ross have nostalgia for Babs Batgirl is less to do with the comics and more to do with stuff like 60s Batman show and Super Friends? It's absolutely that. It is. It's that's what it is. Superman 2 or Superman Returns 2 The Mind Wipe Assault. I mean, wasn't the original pitch for the sequel Superman Returns Brainiac turns Jason into like Doomsday and then Superman has to kill him? That would have been a weird movie. Would make a great idea for a video game. Set in like a dark timeline, but as a movie, it's probably weird. Yeah, the X-Men have always been political. I mean, to be fair, a lot of comics have always been political, and superhero comics especially have always been like strongly left-leaning. So it's always funny when like people with more conservative ideas get mad about like they're putting politics in my comics, and it's like superhero comics have historically leaned left. Like Captain America renounced the Vietnam War. Can you imagine in like the early 70s renouncing the Vietnam War? It's a very leftist position to take. One would say that's a radical left position. So I don't know, whatever. On the whole Evil Cass arc, I don't blame Steph for that. Steph was still dead. I mean, yeah, she was. It's just Steph then wasn't dead magically, which I also at the time remember not liking because I was like, this makes Batman look like a fucking idiot. Not being able to tell that this character, I don't know, I just didn't like it at the time. That was Con-El. Well, I mean, Con-El is Connor. Like that's his name. That's his Kryptonian name. Dan DiDio was gonna introduce the new 52 version of John Kent, written by Garth Ennis, called Super Bastard: The Monster of Tomorrow. That sounds fucking hilarious. I kind of want to see that. Next time I'm at a convention, I'll ask Garth Ennis if that's real. Holy shit, remind me of that, like, every time you see me streaming. Garth Ennis is Super Bastard. That's funny. Even though Cass is the best Batgirl, I don't feel like she would have been a good fit for Dick and Damian. As divisive as it sounds, Steph was more suitable Batgirl for Damian. Cass was made for Bruce and Tim. That's fair. And I see that like retroactively. at the time I didn't like it. New 52, Donna Troy was supposed to be Superman and Wonder Woman's future daughter. That sounds weird. But also, I don't know, better than what we actually got with New 52 Donna Troy, where she's like the misandrous Terminator. That just was not a good idea. Did not like that idea. Can't say I was a fan of it. On Superman's decline from being the one true mascot, do you blame Dark Knight Returns or do you blame the death of Superman? It's hard to like blame one thing. It's a lot of things really. First you have like the decline of the Christopher Reeve movies, sort of. The movies went from being like, the first one's really good. The second one is like a film nightmare where like everything that possibly could have gone wrong did go wrong. Then you get Superman 3, which is funny, but like it's just a Richard Pryor engine. Superman 4 is Superman 4. And then just you get Dark Knight Returns, and then you get the death of Superman, which apparently slashed the reader base for that character in half. Like apparently Death of Superman is for Superman what the Clone Saga was to Spider-Man, and what actually it's more like what One More Day was to Spider-Man. There were a lot of people who like read that story and were like, nope, never again. So it's a lot of stuff happened to Superman that just like aided in his downfall. It's not just one thing, but yeah, Dark Knight Returns and the death of Superman are definitely major components in that downfall. Donnerverse, Superman 5, the death of Superman. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, anyways, I'm gonna go to bed. Yeah. Definitely my books of the week, or the books I read of the week. Spectacular Spider-Man by Greg Weisman and Humberto Ramos. Really solid. Again, definitely check this out if you are a Spider-Man fan. And Batman First Night by Dan Jurgens and Mike Perkins and Mike Spencer. Really good. The artwork is really good in this as well. Just absolutely fantastic work. Again, if you're really into like pulp, this is your book. This is very pulpy. It's also sort of like retelling some stuff with Batman. It's sort of like some of the details here are really cool. Like Bruce Wayne doesn't have a Batmobile. He just has like this red roadster that he drives as Batman, which is what Batman drove in the 1940s Batman serials, as well as some of the comics at the time. They introduced Julie Madison in here as well. They have the whole thing where like these really ugly gangsters are like going around killing people, which may or may not be a callback to that story arc where, well, it's not an arc, it's just an issue, but that issue where like a bunch of ugly people were going around the city making people ugly. So I don't know, that might be a thing, that might not be a thing, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, this is a really good read. I'm excited to read this because I want to see Wonder Woman. I want to see Lois Lane be a black woman. The first transracial white woman in comics, also known as Lois Lane. I'm excited to read this. So yeah, definitely excited to read some of these comics in the near future. In my near future, I mean like as soon as I leave the stream. but Ultimates 2 video being remade. When the script, I feel comfortable with it, that's when I'm going to do it. But yeah, in the meantime, thank y'all for showing up, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.